Coronation Street for Friday, July 18th, teases that a storm is coming, a storm born of blood, betrayal and wounds that never heal. The delicate threads connecting Kit, Bernie, and Brody are fraying fast, spun tighter by decades of secrets and silences. It begins, not with a confrontation, but a quiet, gnawing suspicion in Bernie Winter's heart, a suspicion born from watching Kit avert his gaze every time Brody's name was mentioned. Her motherly instinct doesn't allow room for denial. She knows something is wrong. More than that, she knows what is wrong. She remembers the pain she carried alone for years. The decision to keep the truth about Brody's real father hidden had been a desperate one. It was easier to let Mick believe Brody was his, easier to give her son a name, a structure, than to open the wounds of the past. But now, the truth is screaming to be known. And that truth is Kit. Bernie's suspicions become certainty one grim Tuesday afternoon, when she finds Kit in the community center, alone, staring at a photo of Brody from the charity fundraiser. The look in his eyes isn't casual. It's haunted. Protective. Regretful. She confronts him quietly at first. "You knew he was yours, didn't you?" Kit doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The silence is enough. Bernie sees it in the twitch of his jaw, the sudden stiffening of his shoulders. But instead of embracing the truth, Kit recoils. "I don't want anything to do with him. He's not mine." But Bernie refuses to walk away. Not this time. She's lived too many years with the weight of this secret, and the cost is now being paid by Brody, who is on the cusp of manhood, but emotionally unraveling from the chaos around him. He needs the truth. Meanwhile, Brody is spiraling. Mick's abandonment has crushed him. The man he called Dad has left nothing but a prison sentence and a scathing rejection in his wake. And now Bernie is pressing him with the revelation that Kit, the local copper, the man he barely knows, is his real father. Brody is overwhelmed. His trust in adults has thinned to vapor. He's confused, wounded, desperate to belong to someone, but afraid to open that door again. Still, Bernie pushes. She pleads with him, explains the tangled past, the impossible decisions, the fear that dictated her silence. "It wasn't your fault," she tells him. "You didn't ask for any of this. But Kit, he's yours. Whether he wants to admit it or not." Something in her tone, perhaps the heartbreak, perhaps the unwavering love, convinces Brody to take one step forward. Just one. He agrees to visit Kit in hospital. The visit is short, tense, almost suffocating. Kit is recovering from injuries, a confrontation gone wrong with a local dealer. The timing is terrible, but Bernie insists it must be done now, while the emotions are raw and the truth cannot hide. Brody walks into the hospital room, unsure of what to say. Kit doesn't look up immediately. When he finally does, there's no softness, no relief. Only regret. "You shouldn't be here," Kit mutters. This changes nothing. The words hit Brody like a punch. All the hope he'd quietly buried for a connection crumbles in seconds. To Kit, he is an intrusion. An unwelcome reminder. He's not family, he's a complication. Brody storms out before Bernie can react. Her heart breaks all over again as she chases after him. She finds him sitting on the hospital bench outside, fighting tears. "I never asked to be born," he says. "I never asked for any of this. Mick didn't want me because I wasn't his. Kit doesn't want me because I am. What's left?" She hugs him, not with the strength to fix everything, but with the knowledge that he still needs her, more than ever. Back inside, Bernie returns to Kit. Her face is stern, her tone unyielding. "You're punishing a child for something I did," she says. "You think turning your back on him makes you strong. It makes you just like Mick. He doesn't deserve that. Kit is breathing heavily now. Pain, both physical and emotional, churns beneath the surface. He finally cracks. He nearly got me killed, Bernie. He took my badge, wore it like a costume, and tried to intimidate people. I ended up in hospital because of him. How do I just look past that? But Bernie knows that's not the whole truth. It's not even the biggest truth. You're angry because you feel betrayed. But this isn't about the badge. This is about me, isn't it? About what I did to you. Kit doesn't respond. Bernie continues, quieter now. I left you out. I let someone else take your place. But that boy is yours. Just like you were once someone's boy, hoping to be chosen. Don't make him feel like you did. Her words land. Kit closes his eyes. He remembers being a boy himself, rejected, unseen, cast aside. His resentment isn't just about Brody's mistake. It's about Bernie. It's about how she made him feel dispensable. But pride keeps him frozen. He's better off without me. And so Bernie leaves again, defeated but not broken. Outside, Brody listens to her recount the conversation. It only deepens the hurt. Not only has Mick disowned him, but Kit, the one link to his real identity, wants nothing to do with him either. For Brody, the rejection is a wound that won't clot. And now, more than ever, he begins to resent Lou, the woman who set this chain of lies into motion. She chose convenience over truth. She made decisions about his life without his voice, and now he is left to navigate the wreckage. Puberty has already been turbulent for Brody, but now he's emotionally unmoored. He lashes out at school, withdraws from his friends, skips meals. He begins hanging out with the wrong crowd, those who don't ask questions, who offer escape instead of connection. Bernie, desperate not to lose him, doubles her efforts. She reaches out to the school counselor. She tries to get Kit to talk again. Nothing seems to stick. Brody is slipping through her fingers. And Kit. Behind closed doors, the facade is cracking. He stares at his own reflection longer now, asking himself what kind of man he is. The same pain that pushed him to reject Brody now begins to gnaw at his conscience. He replays Bernie's words over and over. Don't make him feel like you did. Kit was abandoned, once. Left to fend for himself. He swore he'd never do the same. But now he's standing on the brink of that very choice. It's only a matter of time before the past forces his hand, and the consequences of silence erupt into something neither of them can control. Brody drifted into a fog of numbness, slipping deeper into the shadows of himself. The hollow ache of abandonment grew heavier by the hour, and no matter how many times Bernie tried to reach him, her voice sounded like an echo from another world. He didn't want comfort. He wanted clarity. A name. A reason. A father who didn't flinch. Back in the heart of Weatherfield, Kit tried to bury himself in work once discharged from the hospital. He put on the uniform like armor, hoping it would mute the voices in his head. But the badge weighed heavier than ever. It had been more than a symbol, it had been his wall, a reason to believe he wasn't that neglected boy anymore. Yet now, with Brody's face burned into his memory and Bernie's words replaying like a curse, the badge was hollow. He started avoiding places he knew Brody might be. The cabin. Victoria Gardens. The precinct. But avoidance didn't bring peace. Kit found himself haunted by what ifs. What if he had reached out first? What if he'd been brave enough to admit what he'd known since Brody was a toddler, the way he moved, the crooked half-smile, even the temper. His son. And now, he had driven that son even further away. Bernie, meanwhile, wrestled with her own guilt. She'd spent years trying to protect Brody from harsh truths, but her silence had only bred confusion and heartache. She knew Kit was broken, but she also knew what it felt like to be cut off from a child. She couldn't let Kit destroy Brody's fragile identity for the sake of his pride or his revenge. So, she tried again. She cornered Kit outside Roy's Rolls one misty morning, a storm threatening overhead. "You've got one chance left to fix this before he shuts the door for good," she warned. "And he will, Kit. Because kids like Brody. When they get hurt enough, they don't ask twice. They vanish." Kit didn't respond at first. But something shifted in his face, shame, maybe. Or dread. "What do I even say to him?" Bernie looked at him hard. "You tell him you're sorry. And then you keep showing up until he believes it." Brody, however, was no longer in a place to hear apologies. He had stopped coming home at regular hours. Stopped attending school altogether. He wasn't getting into trouble, yet. But the simmering danger of being alone, angry, and ignored was beginning to show. Bernie found him one evening behind the ginnel, sitting cross-legged with a half-finished cigarette and a blank stare. "Don't pretend you're fine," she said gently. Brody didn't look up. "Don't pretend it's fixable." Her heart shattered. There was no righteous anger left in him, just quiet defeat. And that frightened her more than any outburst ever could. The next day, she told Kit everything. Every slip Brody had taken. Every warning sign. Every ache she couldn't mend. Kit listened, jaw clenched. His instinct had always been to protect others. But when it came to his own blood, he had failed. He thought pushing Brody away would protect them both, from pain, from accountability. He realized too late that the damage was already done. But it didn't have to be permanent. That night, Kit made his decision. He didn't go in with grand speeches. He found Brody in the park, just after dusk. The boy was alone on the swings, hoodie up, kicking at gravel. "You shouldn't be out here alone," Kit said quietly. Brody stiffened. "Don't pretend you care." "I won't pretend," Kit said. "I do care. And I've messed this up. All of it. I don't know how to be a dad, especially not to someone who's already learned not to need one. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Brody said nothing, but the swing slowed. Kit continued, voice softer. "You have every right to hate me. To not believe me. But I'm asking you to let me try. That's it. One chance." There was silence for a long time. Then Brody finally looked up, eyes rimmed red but sharp. "I needed you before you knew who I was. Not after." Kit's throat tightened. "I know. And I hate myself for that. But I know who you are now. I know what I owe you." They didn't hug. They didn't even shake hands. But Kit sat down on the swing beside him, and Brody didn't leave. That, for now, was enough. Back at home, Bernie lit a candle for quiet hope. She didn't expect miracles. But she had learned that even the smallest bridge, if built right, could hold the weight of generations. Days passed, then weeks. Brody slowly began showing up more regularly. Kit didn't push. He invited him for coffee instead of lectures. They played darts in the Rovers. Awkward, sometimes silent, but present. Brody started opening up. Not all at once, but in bursts, about school, music, how lost he'd felt. Still, the shadows of Mick loomed. The man had shattered what little confidence Brody had. Now, with Kit emerging in his life, Brody wasn't sure where he fit. Not a son. Not a friend. Something in between. He didn't know if he trusted Kit yet. But he didn't hate him anymore. Kit, on his end, started therapy. Quietly. He knew the bitterness he carried was bigger than Bernie, bigger than Brody. It was time to dig through that rubble. And as the layers peeled back, he found himself healing in ways he didn't expect. He started to want to be better. For Brody. For himself. But the story wasn't done. Because secrets rarely sleep for long on Coronation Street. Lou returned. It wasn't planned. It never was with Lou. She came back with the kind of timing that felt almost cruel, swaggering into town like she hadn't detonated a bomb years earlier. When she saw Brody again, she tried to reclaim her place with a laugh, a smile, a memory. But Brody didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He stood still and said, "You ruined everything." Lou blinked. "I did what I thought was right." "You lied. You let Mick believe I was his, even when he treated me like garbage. You let me think I had a dad, then ripped that away. And now I've got a real dad, who didn't want me either. Because of you." Lou flinched. She had always been good at deflecting, but this time, there was nowhere to hide. Bernie stepped in. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She just said, "Leave him be, Lou. He's finding his feet. Don't knock him down again." Lou left shortly after. No goodbyes. Just a slammed car door and fading engine. And Brody, for the first time, felt the ground stop spinning. He wasn't okay. Not yet. But he was no longer invisible. Kit was there, flawed and learning. Bernie was there, steady and strong. Mick was gone. Lou was gone. But the future? That was starting to feel real. On the final night of summer, Kit invited Brody to the bistro. Just the two of them. "What's this for?" Brody asked. "It's for trying," Kit replied. "It's for showing up." Brody nodded. It wasn't a happy ending. But it was a beginning. And sometimes, that was more powerful than anything else.